Tonight we have Stan Tomkill from the Catholic Coalition in Westchester, and I'd like to introduce Stan to the viewing audience and ask him to make a few comments about the DioGuardi campaign and how the Catholic Coalition is going to play a major part in getting Joe DioGuardi elected in the 19th Congressional District. How are you, Stan?
Very good, Mike. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. This is a very important event for all of us tonight. Joe DioGuardi is a real champion. He's an advocate for life. There's no doubt in my mind that this man is motivated by the principle of human rights and human dignity. Joe DioGuardi is unremitting in his zeal to support human life, to protect human life, and as Catholics, we have a duty as citizens to impart our values into the public discourse and into the political process. Joe DioGuardi is standing up for life. His opponent, Sue Kelly, has voted against the ban on partial birth abortions. She's voted not to protect little partially born boys and girls, even though this legislation passed overwhelmingly in the House of Representatives. It passed in the Senate. Even people like Senator Patrick Moynihan, a so-called pro-choicer, says that this procedure, this despicable procedure, is infanticide. Sue Kelly is one of the very small minority of Republicans, one of only 15 Republicans that supported this despicable procedure. She would not stand for life. She's one of the problems in this culture of death that's undertaking our society, and I know that Joe DioGuardi is going to be a champion for life. That's why it's very important for Catholics in this district who are registered Republicans to get out there and exercise their viewpoints, their values at the ballot box where it can make a difference. And we're going to hope and work and pray for Joe that he can unseat Sue Kelly in this important Republican primary race.
It is clear from the media that Sue Kelly's position on the partial birth abortion bill has been downplayed. But I know the Catholic community has felt extremely alienated by her position and has resented the fact that she has not taken into consideration the value system of the Catholic community in purporting her point of view. And I think tonight the large crowd that we have here is an indication that Sue Kelly is going to be answered for her voting record on September 10th in the primary, and I'm positive that Joe DioGuardi will be our next congressman in the 19th Congressional District. And Stan, I want to thank you for coming tonight. I want to thank you for your comments, and I join with you asking the Catholic community who are registered Republicans to get out and vote on September 10th. We need Joe DioGuardi as our next congressman in the 19th Congressional District, and I urge all of you to get out and vote. Thank you very much, Stan.
And thank you, Mike. It's my pleasure and my honor to help.
Thanks, Stan. We're very glad tonight to have Mike Long from the New York State Conservative Committee. We're here on the River Rose. This is a fundraiser for Joseph DioGuardi, who's running for Congress in the 19th Congressional District. And Joe had received 53 votes out of a possible 54 from the New York State Conservative Committee. And Mike, I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Number one, I'm very happy to be here. I enthusiastically support Joe. Joe has the overwhelming support of the New York State Conservative Party, and as state chairman, I'm proud that we have such a qualified candidate running for the 19th Congressional District. Joe will bring back jobs, family values. He's a pro-growth Republican, and so and I'm glad tonight was such a success.
It's obvious to me that there's never been a clearer choice between Joe DioGuardi and Sue Kelly, Joe being the definitive conservative and Sue Kelly being, if not the liberal candidate, the radical candidate from the 19th Congressional District. And her vote on partial birth abortion and same-sex marriage would indicate that she is anything but conservative.
Yeah, she's one thing that Sue Kelly isn't is she's not a conservative. She was one of only 2 freshman congressmen who voted for partial birth abortion, which I think most of the viewers understand is a horrific act against the life of a partially born infant. So for that fact alone, she clearly should be defeated at the polls this November.
To add insult to injury, recently Mrs. Kelly had gone to the State Board of Elections and asked them to reinstate her as a candidate, a conservative candidate, and give her the designation to run in the conservative primary. Now, as far as I know, she had not filed any of the appropriate papers in order to be designated as a conservative candidate, and this seems to be way out of line. How do you feel about this?
This is the first time this has ever happened in the history of the state of New York, where a candidate who is outside the party is permitted to raid a party after being rejected by the party. And here we have a bureaucracy that has said it's okay for her to enter the primary. She's not a member of the Conservative Party. She doesn't act like a conservative. She philosophically is not a conservative. She doesn't vote like one. Matter of fact, I even question whether she's a Republican, because I don't know if you're aware of the fact, but 2 years ago or 4 years ago, she actually it was 4 years ago, she supported a Democrat against the incumbent Republican congressional candidate. So I'm not sure where Sue Kelly really stands, other than I think she probably sincerely is a true liberal who belongs in the Democratic Party.
Well, it's judging from her voting record and her behavior recently, I don't think that anyone in the Republican Party or the Conservative Party in the state of New York can draw any other conclusion than the statement that you just made, Mike.
Well, hopefully they all agree with us, and on primary day they vote for Joe DioGuardi and bring a real congressman back to the district.
Well, I want to thank you for being on camera tonight and submitting to this interview. And along with Mike, I ask everybody in the 19th Congressional District to get out on September 10th, primary day, and put Joe DioGuardi back in Congress. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good to be with you today.
Very good. Thanks. I'm glad to see my friend Ed Wheeler, the former mayor of Ossining. He's here tonight to support Joe DioGuardi in his primary campaign. The primary is September 10th, and I hope everyone in Ossining, all those loyal Republicans who know Ed very well, get out and vote on September 10th for Joe DioGuardi. Good to see you, Ed.
Thanks, Mike. Thought you'd never get to me.
Well, you know, Joe's running a very vigorous campaign. He actually has never stopped campaigning since the last election, and all those people in Ossining know his office is open on 2 Croton Avenue, and he's been going for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I know he has, and he certainly deserves to win, and I have all the confidence in the world he will. You know, Joe's about loyalty. As you know, I ran an unsuccessful campaign for a town supervisor, and the first thing I did after the first thing happened to me is the next day I received a nice letter from Joe DioGuardi telling me the kind of campaign that I ran and not to be discouraged, and telling me exactly what his feelings were. And I think that's the only one I received, and it means a lot. And it's just a sign of the man, and that's the kind of people we want in Washington, and Joe DioGuardi certainly fills the bill and should be there.
Well, all of us that have known Joe for many years, there's no doubt you couldn't have a better friend than Joe DioGuardi. And I hope everyone in Ossining who is loyal to the Republican Party will get out on September 10th and vote with Ed Wheeler and myself, who are local town of Ossining residents, and get out and vote for Joe DioGuardi on September 10th. Ed?
Absolutely, because that's the only chance you have, and don't blow it now. Forget November. You got to worry about September.
The 10th is a big day, and if Joe will win the primary, and when he does, he will be our next congressman in the 19th Congressional District, and we need someone like Joe in Washington in order to put the economic house back in order.
Absolutely. No doubt about it, and he can do it, and if we all get behind him, he will do it.
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
Thanks for being on camera.
Okay.
And say hello to all the friends out there.
Hi, friends. Get out on September the 10th, and it would be real friends.
Thanks, Ed. We're here in Westchester County at a fundraiser for Joseph DioGuardi, who's the Republican Right to Life and conservative candidate in Westchester County in the 19th Congressional District. And we have a representative from the Albanian community tonight, Zeph Belai. And Zeph, I know Joe's meant a lot to the Albanian community. Could you tell our viewers a little bit about what he's done and how he's affected you and the rest of the Albanians in the New York metropolitan area?
Well, Joe has has done a lot about the Albanian community, specifically for the Albanians in Kosovo, which it's now it's already has been internationalized because of Joe's activity. And with the words of the president of Ibrahim Rugova of the government of Kosovo, that says what Joe DioGuardi and Albanian American Civic League was able to do for the cause of Kosovo, couldn't have, one government couldn't have done that. But having said that, Joe has done much more for the Albanian cause throughout the Balkans, because we happen to be over 7 million people in Balkans and divided in 4 nations. And he has made the Congress of the United States aware about the Albanian, which I have emigrated in this country in 1962, which at that time, if you tell any American, when they used to ask me where you from, I used to tell them from Albania. They used to say, from where? Armenia? No, Albania. Where is Albania? That's how much the American people knew about Albania. Today they know what's in Albania, and that's because of Joe. But having said that, I now do live in the district, in 19th district, that Joe will represent. And we have to work very hard because I believe in the causes that he believes. He's a fiscally conservative, and we have to send him to the Congress because he is the only candidate that I know that knows how to keep the spending down and to reduce taxes, and that's our purpose. I happen to live here in the district. I have moved in this district about 3 years ago, and we have to work very hard, and the event tonight shows how good it is with all the gathering we had here, the Albanians, the Irish, the Italians, and the Hispanics, a small United Nations room in this room. So, and I think the way it looked tonight, we were going to succeed to have him in Congress.
That's a very good point, Zeph. Every community was represented here tonight, and it's an indication that Joe has a broad-based appeal and it has the ability to work with many different ethnic groups and to articulate their concerns, their issues, and their problems on the federal level. And I know you join with me in asking everyone in the 19th Congressional District to get out and vote for Joe in the primary and in the general election and return Joseph to Congress so he can fight for the Albanians, the Irish, the Spanish, the Jewish community, and the general population in the 19th Congressional District. I'd like to thank you for coming here tonight and giving us your point of view and representing the Albanian community.
You're welcome, and we will work very hard, and I am committed to work very hard with my boys and my family. We're going to go out and bring the leaflets and all over, and we're going to visit the churches and the shopping centers and all over, and we're going to be there until the last minute.
Well, I know Joe couldn't have a more loyal community supporting him than the Albanians, and thank God that we have you people here in the United States as hardworking citizens and committed people to the political process. And I want to thank you for coming again tonight.
You're welcome. We'll be there.
Thank you, Zeph.
Thank you.
Tonight we have a guest from the Christian Coalition, Wendy Hollabach. And Wendy, it's our pleasure to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank you for all the support you've given Joe and his campaign in the 19th Congressional District. And I know that the Right to Life vote is going to play a big part on September 10th in helping Joe win the primary. I know you're going to have a big part to play in this.
Oh, I hope so. We plan on putting out a voter guide for the primary. It's going to be nonpartisan, but this is a race that we feel is important because we know that he's with us on the issues, and we would love to have someone who's pro-life and someone who will vote with us on issues that are important to us, whether it be the partial birth abortion ban, all of it, and also there's other issues too. We're not just even one issue. There's other ones that Sue Kelly is just not with us on, some social issues regarding gays. And so we would like to see, traditional marriage values and traditional family values and pro-life values just espoused in Congress.
And as you said, you put out a very important voter guide to the public showing where both candidates stand on these issues. And that is a tremendous public service to those people that are going to get out and vote in the primary on September 10th. And we'd like to thank you for your efforts in doing so, because you're educating the voting public by doing this.
Well, that's our objective, to educate the body of Christ and then get them out of the pews and voting.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that the Christian Coalition and the Catholic Coalition are going to turn out in great numbers on September 10th, and Joe will be returned to Congress because of your efforts. And I'd like to thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Willie.
Thank you.
Tonight we're privileged to have Dr. William Donahue from the Catholic League. We're having a fundraiser tonight on the River Rose here on the Hudson River for Joseph DioGuardi, who's the Right to Life candidate in the 19th Congressional District. And Dr. Donahue, we're very happy to have you here tonight.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I think it's an outrage that anybody, certainly Sue Kelly, tries to come off as if maybe she's some type of an Irish Catholic and then says she doesn't care about what the Catholics think. This is a woman who believes that when a baby is 80% born, it's okay to kill the baby. That's exactly what partial birth abortion means. She feels comfortable with that. I think she needs to explain to the people all over New York, all over the United States, why it's okay to kill a baby that's 80% born. Joe DioGuardi understands the difference between humanity and inhumanity, and that's why I think that the people in this area really have to make a very serious choice come September the 10th.
Well, it's very clear to the voters in this district, both Catholic and Christian, that Mrs. Kelly is taking a very uncivilized stance with the abortion issue, and she doesn't think of it as a life and death issue. She believes that it's a woman's freedom issue, and that the consequence of the life of the fetus has no right whatsoever to reach gestation. And this is very upsetting to the Catholic community. And when she was asked how she could justify her position and she's alienated the Catholic community, her immediate answer was it didn't matter, that she wasn't Catholic.
Well, that kind of callousness, of course, will never be accepted by Catholics once the word gets out. The fact of the matter is Catholics are concerned about their heritage, about their culture, about their religion. And for somebody to take such a flip attitude toward Catholicism is not going to sit well. It's not going to resonate well. And I think that Joe DioGuardi is doing a good job of getting that voice out there.
Well, I definitely feel that once the voters in the 19th Congressional District have a clear definition of who Sue Kelly is, they can't help but to get out on September 10th, primary day, and vote for Joe DioGuardi and return him to Congress in the 19th Congressional District. I want to thank you tonight for being here.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
And for adding your definitive statement as to who Sue Kelly really is.
That's right.
And we urge, both of us urge, all Catholics in the district to go out and vote your conscience on September 10th.
That's right.
Primary day.
That's right. If you feel comfortable killing a baby, that's fine. But if you don't, then you know that you have to think about that as well.
Dr. Donahue, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Very good. I'm glad to have Dr. Patrick Delamere from Mayapack here tonight at the reception for Joe DioGuardi. And Pat, how's the state of health care in Putnam County?
Well, it's getting better. I think that we have a couple of major concerns that face the health care in the United States and also in Putnam County. One is for proper health care for the future, people being able to afford it. On the other hand, we don't want to lose any good doctors, and I see that what's happening now in the healthcare system is that we're losing good doctors who can't handle the stress, or they can't handle the aggravation of the system. I think Joe DioGuardi he knows the process, and he knows what to do and what we can get done to improve the health care both for the patient's point of view and the doctor's point of view.
Well, I know that the Right to Life vote in the primary on September 10th is going to play a big part in who wins this primary. And I know you're very involved in the Right to Life movement, and you are an advocate. And Joe has the support of the Right to Life Committee. He's received the endorsement, and I'm sure the people in the Mahopac area know of Joe and know his positions, and I'm sure they're going to get out on September 10th and help Joe win this primary.
I don't think there's any doubt that Joe is the only person in this election, of all the candidates, who a Christian from a biblical background could vote for. I can't see anyone in this election who stands for what Joe stands for. But I think there's something even more important than that, or with that, is that Joe is a man who knows the process, and he also is back. He has backed the Irish tremendously. He's backed a lot of ethnic groups, but people don't know what he's done for the Irish movement. For example, in Tara Circle, he was there in the onset. But Joe was in Northern Ireland 5 years ago when he was a congressman standing for us. So not only is he pro-life, he's a man for causes, and if he sees there's a need, he'll help the need. So I don't know anyone else in this whole election who could do what Joe DioGuardi. So my money's behind him, my heart's behind him, my prayers are for him.
I understand what you're saying. I've known Joe for over 20 years, and he is a very loyal individual, a very loyal friend. And along with you, I urge everyone in Putnam County to get out on September 10th and vote for Joe in the primary, and we'll send him back to Washington as a congressman from the 19th Congressional District, and he'll help put the House back in order.
Amen. Amen.
Thanks for coming tonight,
Oh,
Pat.
my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
Joe, there's a tremendous turnout tonight. The Irish community has turned out in great numbers for you, and I think it portends a very strong turnout on September 10th and a victory in the primary for you. And I'll tell you, you have a lot of excited people here tonight for your candidacy. It's incredible. The feeling here is incredible.
God bless the Irish. And you're right. The Irish make up, I'm told, 30% of this congressional district, and that is the largest ethnic group in the district. And I'm so proud and pleased to have this kind of a turnout because I represented, as you know, as a congressman, a great ethnic Irish community in Yonkers and in the lower part of Westchester County. And it was at that time that I became very much involved with Irish affairs, not only locally in the community, but in Northern Ireland with Mario Biaggi and then with Congressman Ham Fish, God rest his soul now, and also Tom Manton and Ben Gilman. In fact, I just came back from Washington. I was with Ben. So it's just wonderful to see this outpouring of affection and support. And I can't wait to get back to Washington to show my Irish friends the kind of activist I can be again for them, both locally here on things like Tara Circle, the cultural center that we do need in Briarcliff, and also the Great Hunger Foundation to memorialize the blight, which was really, we know, a political oppression by the British. You know, someone said God created the blight, but the British created the famine. That's true. And it's going to be wonderful to get back and also to deal now with the issue of a peace in Ireland with honor and justice. I was the one who introduced the One Ireland resolution that was put out by the AOH and Father Sean McManus back in 1985, and I'd be pleased to reintroduce it again. In fact, there's probably a better time for it with what we see going on, the brokering of this peace.
That's true. You know, Eleanor McDonald cannot be here tonight because she's attending the AOH convention in Minnesota.
God bless Eleanor.
But Eleanor said that Joe has always showed loyalty to the Irish community, whether it was Joe Doherty, or whether it was passing legislation concerning the McBride principles, or whether it was just generally supporting the Irish community, and especially with publicly getting out and supporting Tara Circle, when we know that in the village of Briarcliff there was tremendous opposition by a small group of individuals, not to condemn the whole community, but a small group of individuals showed hatred and bigotry towards the Irish, and Joseph was the first one to stand up publicly and denounce it for what it was and ask the village to consider Tara Circle as a cultural center for the Irish community.
You remember I waited online there for 2.5 hours that night
at least
just to get on to make that testimony,
right.
And I did it with great honor and love for the the Irish people. You know, I was born and raised in the Bronx, in an Irish neighborhood, went to Fordham Prep, Fordham University, and the Irish Jesuits were my surrogate fathers. You know, my dad came here with no education, God rest his soul, mom's still here, and America gave my family, as it did the Irish, great opportunity. But having the exposure to the Irish in their neighborhoods, and here's Mom here. Mom, come here. I'm being interviewed right now. This is my mother. She's 83. Can't wait for the next election. She gets younger with every election. Remember the book that Joe Namath wrote in 1987 or 88 around the Super Bowl? He says, I can't wait till tomorrow because I get better looking every day. Mom can't wait till the next election because she gets more energy. 83 young.
This boy has a lot of energy. And I tell you the truth.
I got it from you, Mom.
I know. And with your energy and your enthusiasm, you're going to do a whole lot for the people, and they need you.
Mom's got a great definition of enthusiasm.
Yes.
She says of all the things, you can be smart, you can be dedicated, but you need enthusiasm. It turns on your energy. And she found a great quote, and I call her on the phone from time to time, and she repeats it to me. Why don't you say it here? Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm is the sparkle in your eye, the grip in your hand, the surge in will and energy to execute his ideas. Enthusiastics are fighters. They have fortitude. They have staying qualities. And enthusiasm is at the bottom of all
success. Without it, there is no success. And
no, with it there is success. Without it, there are only alibis.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you.
We were just talking about the Irish, and I told how we, in the Bronx, the grocery store you and Dad had, in the Irish neighborhood, that, remember I used to deliver orders to Mrs. Fallon and Mrs. Riley as a young kid?
They dealt with people from very, very young. When they came into the store, they wanted to know where Joe and Angel is.
Yes.
They wanted to know where the children were. They were so interested in that the children were so closely knitted with the parents.
And while they worked hard, and we were there with them, Mom was always comforted and comfortable in knowing that the Irish Jesuits were taking care of their son, her son Joey, and they worked hard in that store to count my tuition out of the cash register. Sure, we worked, but you know, it wasn't easy in those days. I remember it was like for 6 months, $125 back in 1953, 54, which is a lot of money. Had to be counted pretty much out of the cash register. They made it nickels and dimes.
But I didn't mind not one penny
got a good education.
Because I got 3 jewels for children, and they are the best in the world, and I love them.
Thank you. Okay. Just to complete, you know, people say, well, why did I do so much for the Irish people, and why are they here for me? It's not a question of politics. It's a question of what you feel, who you're comfortable with. And as I said, I was raised with the Irish. I was schooled with them at Fordham Prep, Fordham University. I came to Westchester County, and I was delighted to represent Yonkers and a great Irish community. And they adopted me, and politically, when I understood their plight, really understood it for the first time when I got into Congress in Northern Ireland, I said, you know, this is a crusade that I got to really go all out for, and it's not finished yet, as you know. We got to finish it. I've always said that the partition of Ireland was a crime against democracy and against history, and it must be corrected. And the only superpower in that area is Great Britain. They're the only ones that can resolve this. And when they decide that it should be resolved, it will be resolved. And people say, well, you know, what about the bombing? You got to condemn violence everywhere. But look at the frustration of the Irish people. I mean, every trick in the book has been played to keep them down. Look at the poverty, the discrimination of Northern Ireland. I went there. I went in front of the Ford plant with Bruce Morrison in '87. And you went through Belfast to see the rank discrimination. That's why we have the McBride principles. It's important for the Americans to know about this. I think it was one of the great Irish heroes, and I can't remember the name right now, but it'll come to me, when asked about what would it take to bring peace to Northern Ireland, he says it would take Charles de Gaulle. And when asked, he said, what do you mean by that? He says, well, when Charles de Gaulle became president, he had his Northern Ireland, it was called Algeria. And he looked around, he said, you know, this is not France. And he took the troops out. We need a great English statesman, and we hope it's Major or someone to say that Northern Ireland is not England. done and to get the troops out, and you'll see how the peace then comes back.
Well, I know that we need you back in Congress to convince them that that is the case.
Okay, well, you're going to hear my speech tonight, and I hope you get it on tape, and we'll make sure we get it out, because this is one issue I understand extremely well, and you can be sure I'll be a fighter on this like you can't believe.
Well, I'm asking everyone in the Irish community to get out on September 10th and support Joe in the primary, and let's return him to Congress in the 19th District, and we'll have a spokesman for the Irish.